Hey everyone, it's Phil Wade. How are you? We'll get going in just a moment. Kind of let some more people hop on here. Let me just get we'll uh, we'll open up the meeting at the end to any questions. So appreciate everybody being here. Give it another minute before we start. Sometimes you get some late people coming on. So um, how's everybody doing? Hopefully doing well. This webinar is on, prospecting for, for clients, for business. It's really the most important thing, one has to do as a real estate agent. If you can't find clients, usually you end up, kind of going out of business. Appreciate everyone being here. Hey, Valerie, good to see you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hey, Patricia. Hey, Augustina, good to hear from you from Texas. Awesome. We appreciate that. All right. So prospecting, very, very important. In fact, it's critical. Let's kind of get into it in a little bit more, a little bit more detail. All right. So, when I first started in real estate, many, many years ago, I was a rookie and had another rookie agent. Um, you know, Two of us kind of not really knowing what we're doing, but he did say something to me that has stuck with me after all these years. Top agents are always prospecting for business. Even if you're, a successful agent and you have business, you got to keep prospecting, right? Because usually there aren't enough, referrals, coming your way to really continue on, um, and to really drive your business forward. So prospecting always needs to be done. So there's really no home runs, right? There's nothing I can tell you tonight that is going to, bring you, 20 transactions a year, not one thing. So there's a lot of little things, right? I call them singles, right? Using that baseball analogy. So there's a lot of singles, a lot of little things, we kind of have to do, in order to, in order to be successful. So if you're a newer full-time agent, right, most of your time should be spent prospecting. My strategy was kind of 3 hours a day. I spent prospecting 1 hour on listings, start looking and trying to get listing appointments, 1 hour on my internet leads, and then 1 hour on social media. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you're a part-time agent, right, and Dalton Wade certainly has several part-time agents, then you got to kind of say, hey, how much time am I going to be able to devote to prospecting? So, hey, I'm working a 40-hour a week job and I'm going to put, 20 hours in. I'm going to really try to work hard. I'm going to put in those 60-hour weeks in order to ultimately become, a full-time real estate agent. So in that time that you have, it is, certainly a little more limited than somebody who's doing this full time. How much time are you going to allocate, to prospecting? So it should be, anywhere from 30 to 50% of your time, um, devoted to prospecting. Not sure on the echo. Anybody else hearing that? I'm not sure why that would be, but don't know if it's on my end, so not really sure there. Yeah. Hey, Sergey, how are you? So some people no echo. Um, yep. Yeah, no echo. There you go. Thank you, Tyria. All right, cool. Glad that was just limited. Again, if you are getting an echo, possibly log out and then log back in. All right. So here's another critical point. You must find people you do not know to succeed as an agent, right? For everybody pretty much, your, sphere of influence, people people you go to church with, people, maybe from your kid's school, friends, business associates. Usually we just don't have enough of those folks, right, in order to, have a sustained real estate business. So you got to find people you don't know. Trust me, they're out there. You just got to kind of, know where to look, and you gotta prospect, right? You gotta look for them. You gotta put that time in. All right. And then a couple other concepts. So your human capital, right? Your human capital is your time. Your time is valuable. So you want to spend your time wisely. So remember what I said. You got to be putting that time in prospecting. We're going to talk about how to do that, where to look, some strategies around that. And then we have our financial capital, which is your money, right? So you want to be very, if you are investing maybe in some leads, some, door knockers, postcards, anything like that. You got to be really frugal and, not, I mean, I've wasted a lot of money. You don't want to waste your money. If, everybody's going to tell you that, meaning people that are trying to sell you something as a real estate agent. Oh, this works, 10% conversion. Typically, it's BS, right? And then at the end of the day, you've invested in it's always some type of monthly subscription. Oh, it's $1,000 a month, 6 month or year commitment, right? And hey, if it doesn't work, yeah, typically it's a 1% conversion rate. Exactly. I just got pitched by a company. They were going to sell the brokerage some leads, right? And then, the numbers didn't make any sense, right? So I passed on that. And then again, answer the phone, right? Have a voice greeting. Again, I can't tell you how many times, like I'll be calling an agent and there's no voice message, right? I end up, getting their voicemail, and it is just the generic, please leave a message. Doesn't say they're a real estate. Like every opportunity you can promote yourself and look as professional as possible, you want to take advantage of. All right. So I kind of call it the five horsemen for real estate success. So these are the five things that I did when I was an agent. Um, and again, why there's five, and all five are important. Um, what I used to see and what I've seen from agents is they'll do one thing, like they'll buy Zillow leads, and then all of a sudden Zillow changes their algorithm or Zillow becomes more expensive, and then lo and behold, their business dries up. Or hey, I was doing, two deals a month through Zillow, and now it's one or not even one because they've gotten more expensive or something changed, right? So you want to have a multi-pronged attack. Here they are: listings, open houses, internet leads, right? Social media, and your sphere of influence, right? So let's talk about each one of these. So listings, right? So listings are the number one, they're the best, right? Because here's the thing, right now we are in a buyer's market, right? It's a little slow out there. Sellers are still, listing sellers, they're still willing to pay commission to buyers agents. We've had the change. It's about a year now with NAR, right? I guarantee you, I guarantee you, when the market switches, which it will, and it becomes a seller's market again, they're going to be much more reluctant to pay that buyer's agent commission because they don't have to. And then you're going to have to collect it from your buyer, right? Which is harder. Right now they're paying because they pretty much have to, but it may not always be like that. So again, you want to get good at listings. Then you have to ask yourself, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What's my approach? Right? We have what's called our farm, right? So where I live, it's about, I don't know, maybe 800 homes, some condos, some single family homes, right? And then there's two or three agents. They dominate here, right? They're known. They've developed that over time. It is their farm, right? They've spent years kind of cultivating that. And now they're kind of often the go-to realtors in this area. So, you may say to yourself, hey, that's what I want to do. I'm gonna pick maybe one area, two areas, and I am gonna farm that. I'm gonna let everybody know, hey, I'm the person that you want to use. And I'm sure like, where you live, whatever community it is, who that kind of acts is, right? That top agent in your local, community. You want to be that, right? If that's your decision. The other way is kind of a more broad approach, right? You don't really care where that listing is coming from. You'll drive, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to take a listing. So you'll prospect kind of in a different way. The disadvantage with the broad approach is, because again, listings are going to give us buyers if we work those listings correctly. That's one of, again, I call it the multiplier effect. You can get multiple deals off your listing, right? Maybe somebody sees your sign, they're thinking of listing your home, right? And you pick up another listing. You conduct an open house, and because you're the listing agent, you've got someone looking in that community, and because you're kind of the go-to person, you have a listing, you're very knowledgeable, right? And you say, hey, my strategy, and I kind of had it down. Whenever I showed, it's called the direct showing. That's a showing where the buyer doesn't have an agent, right? The buyer doesn't have an agent. So I show them the property, but it's all kind of pre-planned. This is important. It's pre-planned, so I know 99% of the time that person that I'm showing that property to, they are not going to purchase it. So I show them the property, I kind of let them do their thing, I let them look around, and then in the end I say, hey, what do you think? Do you have any questions? Do you think you're going to make an offer? And they say, Phil, no, this probably isn't the property for me, right? And then as soon as I hear that, as soon as I hear they are not, going to make an offer, I don't just let them walk out. I change the conversation, right? Initially, I'm trying to sell the property. Then next, I'm trying to sell me. Why'd you call the listing agent? The listing agent doesn't care if you overpay. I'll make sure you never overpay. I'm very knowledgeable of, what properties cost in this area. I'll make sure you get a good value. You don't end up overpaying. Would you like to look at some properties with me? I got 1 out of 4 to say yes. 1 out of 4, 25% conversion rate. So that listing generated me a buyer, right? So again, listings multiplier effect. When you work with a buyer, I never poo-poo any buyer. I love working with buyers, right? But you don't really get much else out of it. Maybe in 4 years they call you and ask you to list their house, or maybe they send you a friend, right? But I had one listing, and it ended up being like, I don't know whether it was 3 or 4 degrees of separation, but I ended up getting, I think, 15 or 16 transactions from it. I met so many people, and then I got their listing, and then I got the neighbor of theirs list, right? It just kept on going. When you work with buyers, you don't get that same kind of multiplier effect. All right, so you're going to decide, hey, I'm either going to farm an area or I'm going to have that broader approach. What are some strategies to get listings, right? Door knocking. Door knocking. You go around and you introduce yourself as the local realtor, right? Let them get to know you. Maybe you're going to have, a postcard campaign, and you're continually in front of them, right? With the hope or the thought that in a year from now, when they're ready to list, you're the person they reach out to, right? And you then kind of become, the go-to realtor in your area. So you got door knocking, maybe you knock on the door, nobody's home, and you leave sort of a door hanger behind, right? Kind of telling about yourself, telling about your services, telling about, maybe you have a slightly discounted commission rate, whatever, but you develop a piece that you kind of leave behind. Again, you're going to be doing this in a repetitive way over time. So, people start to say, hey, this person, this agent, they're the one I want to work with when I am ready to list, right? Then we have just sold, just listed postcards. Um, Again, kind of letting people know, hey, I'm here. You're reminding them, hey, I got this home sold, I got this home listed. Again, why agents send these things out is to get other listings, So it's marketing to get other listings. Then we have geodata. Geodata is like who's getting ready to list next, right? So Turner Title, the Turner Title Prospector, Turner Title is our title company, but they have a piece of software that basically will kind of allow you to create a farm. And then within that farm, it's going to tell you who's most likely, to list their home in the next 12 months. Why is that important? Well, somebody that just bought their home 3 months ago, probably, not ready to sell anytime soon. So what it does is it kind of tells you who am I going to invest my money and time with. Gives you a higher chance of success because it's letting you know who's most likely to list. So these are listings that potentially are coming. It takes, bankruptcy, divorce, length of mortgage, I think it's like 35 data points, that they compile, and then it comes up with, hey, based on whatever attributes, this person is most likely to list their home in the next year. And then the other one is calling. So my thing when I was a listing agent, right, or an agent, 10 calls a day, every day. I mean, I didn't like doing it. I mean, I'll be honest. I'd have to take a nap because it was draining, but I would call 10 people a day, every day, religiously. What does that mean? 10 calls a day. Well, what it means is there's 20 business days in a month. So I made 200 calls a month. Here were my results. 2% conversion, meaning out of those 200 people I called, I would get 4 appointments to go on that listing presentation. And out of those 4, I got 3 listings, right? So I also got 196 hangups, no's. Why are you bothering me? I didn't care. I just kept calling because I knew that if I did, it's just the law of numbers, right? If you make enough calls, you will have success. We have scripts. If anybody needs those scripts, happy to send them to you. And then again, there's tons of scripts out there on the internet. Get good at this, right? Again, 1 hour a day. You're going to spend prospecting for listings. All right, let's talk about open houses, right? So open houses, again, a great way to meet buyers. I'm going to use the F word. Anybody know the F word? Free leads, right? You're not paying Zillow or Realtor.com for, leads that, hey, Janie, I'm not sure of that. I don't know. Possibly, but again, I'm not sure. Maybe, but I know the Turner Title Prospector is pretty good. I've gotten good feedback from the agents on it. We do training on it as well. But again, when you have that listing, now you're able to leverage it by doing an open house. So if it's your listing, right, you want to be there. You want to do that open house. You have more credibility. It is available in Texas. Yep, absolutely. Yep, it is. We do offer that there. So yep, absolutely. So again, shoot me an email, phil@daltonwade.com, and I'll make sure you get you get the demo, and we do that for you. Um, So if you don't have any listings, or like, it's a listing where the seller doesn't allow an open house, then network with some other, Dalton Wade agents. We send out, well, Kim, that's unfortunate. So what that's telling, two things there. So Kim's saying, I've done open houses, but no one shows. That's a bummer, right? Um, two reasons. It's available in all states. Yep, absolutely. Georgia as well. So Kim, the reason why no one shows, one of two reasons: poor marketing of that open house, no one knows about it, right? Or yeah, I mean they do also offer it through Remind, exactly. Um, Poor marketing, right? Or overpriced house. Overpriced house. I've done open houses that no one have come. Absolutely. Many of them. Why? Or one person comes. Why? Here's the thing, right? Buyers kind of know what something is going to go for, or maybe their agent might know what it's going to go for. And let's say the market is, 350, but the house is listed for 419. That's an indication when no one comes that it's not priced right. The perfect listing is just priced a little bit over what it's worth. So it gives you some time to actually do an open house and to meet some people. That's the goal. Yeah, you have to advertise. You got to, again, you got to post it early. You got to get it out there. There you go. Thank you, Catherine. I post my open houses on over 100 Facebook groups, create events, post signs early, do videos ahead of time. Exactly. You want to post that open house. So say you're doing one, this coming Saturday or Sunday, you wanted to have posted that on Monday. You want to have time for it to be out there, right? Maybe, there are agents, they post them like a day or two before. Maybe, not as many people saw that there was an open house and it stunts your traffic, right? So again, if you don't have any, uh, we have um, we have what's called the Open House Connect. We do send that out. We'll make sure you get that, Zena. So that again is, doing another Dalton Wade agents, um, open house. So again, it's good, right? It's good. You might meet some people, but it's better when it's your listing, right? When it's your listing, you have so much more credibility. But again, if you don't have any listings, right, you're just kind of getting going. Yep, I believe it's available Texas, Georgia, and Florida. I'm not sure we have enough agents currently, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Alabama, but I'll check on that. So again, just trying to network you, reach out, post in the Facebook group, ask if anybody needs any help, put yourself out, um, and kind of go from there. So, we have open house training, right? So kind of what I did is, I logged they'd come in, I'd log them in. I'm logging them in right into my CRM. I'm not logging them in on a piece of paper, right? Again, you want to log them right in, have their contact information, and then follow up with them afterwards. Yeah, I mean, sending letters, absolutely. I mean, again, like the Turner Title Prospector, that's really where that would help, right? So you're sending the letters to people that have a high propensity of listing in the next year, right? As opposed to, as I mentioned, that person who just purchased, a few months ago. You could like your letter is going to end up in the trash, right? So, and again, like one letter may not be enough, right? You gotta maybe, send a letter, every couple of months. You gotta, right? You gotta hit them when they're thinking about listing. Thank you, Catherine. And then we have open house training, and then Mary does, a live training, or visit an open house and observe what that agent, how they're conducting it. So for me, have them come in, you log them in, tell them, hey, take a look around. If you have any questions, after you've taken a look at the property, I'm happy to answer them. Off they go. And then I try to follow up with them, prior to leaving. The other thing too, to think about, so the perfect open house, I would do them maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I might try to do two in an afternoon, 12 to 1:30. 2:30 to 4, something like that. Meet more people that way. Um, Again, the perfect open house, 6 or 8 people come, right? So you can actually spend some time with them. When you have, and I've had a bunch of these where it's, excuse my French, it's a shit show, right? I mean, there's so many people coming that it's difficult to spend any significant time with anybody. It's hard even logging them in because you're so busy, like saying, hey, and they're coming fast and furious. If you think, hey, I'm going to get this, I got a hot listing, I'm getting a lot of calls on it. When I do that open house, I'm expecting a pretty good turnout. Get another Dalton Wade agent. Two of you, double team it, right? That way, hey, you got, you know, 15 people, each of you could spend time with 7, right? And hopefully kind of go from there. So again, get good at doing an open house. So my conversion rate on open houses, 1 out of 25. Yeah, I log them right into, Bowl Trail. I mean, when I was out there doing them, we didn't have Bowl Trail, but yeah, I would log them right into, at the time it was Boomtown. I'd log them right into Boomtown. Bowl Trail has an open house app, right? Log them right in, and that way, they're all set up. You can start marketing to them. And we'll talk a little bit about, kind of marketing in the CRM as we get to sort of the end of the presentation. So for me, 1 out of 25, right? 25 visitors. And again, that would be several open houses. I would get 1 buyer out of it. But again, it's all planned, right? I know exactly how I'm conducting that open house. I'm logging them in, I'm letting them go. When they're getting ready to leave, I see if they have any questions. And then, the next day I'm calling them and I'm following up and I'm trying to connect. People work with real estate agents because they like you. They don't go and research you. Trust me, this is how it works. They don't go and look and, oh, they've sold. No, you just connected with them. And then you got a client. So again, open houses, you should be out there doing, pretty much every weekend. That is the nature of the beast. This time of year, I used to do I call them like commuter open houses. Thursday evening, 5:30 to 7 or 5:30 to 7:30, right? Again, it's a numbers game. The more people you can kind of get through your open house, right? And if you do kind of the procedures, you will pick up some buyers. Again, I'm going to say that F word, for free, right? You got those buyers for free. That's huge. All right, internet leads. So internet leads are still a viable part of the business, but they're not what they used to be. In all honesty, they're not what they used to be. And that's really a couple reasons. One, really 3 reasons. One, there just aren't as many buyers out there today as there were, during the pandemic, right? So there just aren't as many. We don't have as many transactions, so they're harder to find. Two, at least in the case of Zillow and Realtor.com, they've gotten more expensive, right? So I had an agent, previously she was doing, she was converting like a mad woman. And then probably about a year ago, like she was converting not nearly as many. And I'm like, hey, Laura, what's happening? And really it wasn't her. She was still doing her thing. It was, she wasn't getting nearly as many leads. She's still paying the same amount, not as many leads. The leads have become more expensive, right? So they're harder to convert. So again, we've got Facebook, kind of the hierarchy of, what converts best. It's Zillow, quite honestly, then Realtor.com. Google can work, Facebook, again, people aren't on Facebook, looking for an agent. You can get a lot of leads, but sometimes, those leads are very, very difficult, to convert. The protocol has changed. It used to be, and this is probably going back now 5 or 6 years ago, everything came through like text or email, very few direct calls. Today, most everything, at least through Zillow, Realtor, OpCity, Prime Street, all kind of direct calls, meaning you speak to the person to kind of got to know them a bit, and then hopefully you're scheduling that first time out. If it's not a direct handoff, it comes in via text or email, still that happens. You want to make sure you call as quickly as possible. You want to text them and you want to email them. I used to call 2 times, text 2 times, and then email 2 times. And then after that, I would put them on a drip. There's this, you can Google it, called 10 Days of Pain. 10 Days of Pain. This real estate agent, what he did, he beat on those leads for 10 days, calling them every day, texting them every day. I would just think that would upset people. Yeah, absolutely. You can, I mean, again, you got to try different things, right? But, is somebody on TikTok for looking for a real estate agent? Probably not as much. We're going to talk about Instagram in a bit. Snapchat, with like TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat, I mean, not that I've heard of. Not that I've heard of. I mean, Zillow is like the 500-pound gorilla. So again, but you got to make sure like it's a good investment. It's worthwhile. As I said, their leads have gotten very, very expensive. But again, sometimes if you can generate your own leads through like open houses, right, that don't cost anything. And again, here's the thing: people that are searching on the internet, buyers, I mean, they're often like several months to maybe even years out before they're ready or even able to purchase. Somebody going to an open house is active right now. They're much more qualified, because of what they're doing, as opposed to somebody coming in as an internet. Now they still convert, don't get me wrong, right? So you want to spend some time, having some internet leads. And then again, you want to make sure they go into your CRM. We're going to talk a little bit more about the CRM, but I'll give you a kind of a little tip, right? I mentioned some people are way out. They're way out in terms of like when they're ready to purchase, but eventually they're going to purchase. Now, what ends up happening with many agents is that lead comes in, they work it for a bit, and then they drop it. No, that lead is still valuable. I converted people 6 months, 9 months, over a year out from when I originally got that lead, because I continue to be there in a very systematic way. What you're trying to communicate to them is, I'm here to help you. One of the things I like to do is I like to provide knowledge. Me. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Valerie. There you go. She just 3 years, but she finally, right, because that person wasn't ready until then. What ends up happening with internet leads is you got to be there when they're ready. Sometimes they're ready right away. Other times it takes 3 years. So you want to make sure they've gone into Bold Trail. If their name comes in, yeah, it happens. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why Bold Trail is very expensive for Phil, but that's why we have it. It works. It helps you stay in touch. I call it reminder marketing. I use it in recruiting. Same concept. I'm dripping on agents. They came in. I mean, you'd be shocked how many agents take quite a while for them ultimately to join, but they do. But if you didn't do that, they forgot about you. So again, you want to set up that drip campaign. You want to be promoting, sending them stuff that's valuable in terms of helping them, with their, with their search. All right, social media. Let's talk a little bit about that. So social media, let's start really at the beginning. So you want to audit your online presence to begin with. Google your name. Google your name, real estate agent. Google your name, realtor. See what comes up. I can't tell you again, like, you wonder why there's like an 80% failure rate in this business, meaning somebody joins a brokerage and then they don't succeed. Why? Because they don't help themselves. They don't help themselves. You Google that person and there's nothing there. Or they have something on realtor.com, but there's no photo, there's no bio. It's like an empty canvas. And then like if you're the consumer, like, do I want to work with that person? They don't even look like they're engaged in this business. Social media can actually hurt you as much as it can help you, right? So everybody after this webinar, Google your name, realtor, your name, real estate agent, and see what pops up. And hopefully, you're happy with it. If not, it's easy to fix. So Dalton Wade, we have a program called Paradigm. It will actually, it will post all your listings for you. It will create a video of your listing. That'll be a post. And it will actually share your listings with other Dalton Wade agents, in the area, right? And the video. It gives you, there's two things in social media. There's content, right? You know, thank you, Pam. Appreciate it. Thank you, Claudia. Right? So, yeah, thank you, Chi. I appreciate it. I love your name. It's awesome. So, again, it helps you with the content side of things. Remember what I said, 1 hour a day, you're going to prospect for listings. 1 hour a day, you're working on your internet leads. 1 hour a day, you are on social media for your business, right? You want to separate your business from your personal, from your personal social media accounts. Um, Thank you. Appreciate it, Chi. Thank you. So again, content. That's where I see agents fall down. They don't have much content. And it looks spotty. It looks like they're not engaged, right? Paradigm helps fix that. It gives you the content. There's a library of pertinent real estate articles, right? So you don't want everything to be listings and videos. You want some articles, right? And then you want some of your own personal posts so it doesn't look too automated, right? And then again, the other part of social media is engaging, right? That's why they call it social. So it's not just the content side. Oh, I'm liking my friend's post. I'm commenting on their post. I'm engaging with them. And again, social media is a little bit of a longer tail strategy, meaning like you may not get business initially from it, but over time, right, what you're trying to do is to communicate, to your followers that you're a top agent. So that again, when they're ready to do something, buy or sell, you are the person they reach out to. Right? So again, you're going to build your followers, right? By interacting, by liking, by commenting. Blogging is another thing, right? You can blog in terms of, hey, why do you want to work with me? Well, you want to work with me because I'm very knowledgeable. My strategy was to give people content, information to help them and not ask them for really anything. But what ends up happening is because you've provided that, hey, I want to work with that person. I want to work with that agent, and you get their business kind of by default. Another one I did that I see no one really do is kind of like there used to be first time buyer seminars, right? An inspector, a lender, a title company, and a real estate agent would kind of get together, maybe rent out a place, maybe use a title company, who knows, maybe get some pizza, some beer, right? And then they would invite, some first-time home buyers and conduct a seminar from them with, again, the hope that they're going to use the real estate agent and then all the other providers. Today, you can do that all online, right? You can have a first-time buyer webinar, get your lender, get your title company. There you go. Today, thank you. Personally, do you do them online or do you do them like in person? How do you do them? there you go. So, I mean, how's it working? Dawn said she did it again. Maybe connect with Dawn. Dawn, maybe connect with, yeah. So again, like again, it's all like multi-channel, many different things, right? You got to find out, hey, have I spent money on real estate stuff and it didn't work? Absolutely. Trust me, right? Right? If that happens, then again, that's why you don't want to sign a contract for a year or even 6 months, right? Because if it doesn't work, you've kind of blown your budget. But you got to try things, you got to test things out. And then, YouTube is another, sort of you know, great platform for real estate agents. I have several agents that have very, very strong YouTube channels, have gotten a lot of business. Probably my best agent in that regard. He kind of almost has like a concierge service. He's a man, so he can certainly do this. He picks the person up at the airport, he tours them around, takes them back to their hotel, right? He gets a lot of out of town, buyers. And his thing, it's not so much about real estate. Like he's in actually Sarasota, Florida. So best beaches in Sarasota, top 10 restaurants. He's really into like lists, 10 best of this. Like, just again, you're trying to communicate that you're that local expert and it works. Check out some other real estate like agents. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the end, but there's a lot of information you can get from what other agents are doing and how they do it. All right, your sphere, right? So your sphere used to be, or is kind of considered like your friends, your family, your business association. How about working with investors? Is that a good market? Um, it can be. Here's the thing with investors. A lot like, oh, can you show me like a lot of them because they're an investor, they're knowledgeable, and sometimes they don't treat us real estate agents all that well. But again, absolutely, they're actively buying, they're actively selling, but you got to find ones that are trustworthy and are loyal. Sometimes they're just abuse us, unfortunately. Like I'll say, oh, like I'm a flipper and I bought, 10 houses over the last year and turned them over. Well, like, where's your real estate agent? Obviously, they don't have one. So again, it can be good. I mean, certainly, if you can find some people, that are investors, absolutely. So your sphere, friends, family, business associates, right? But that's kind of the basics. Everybody, I mean, like, again, you're going to let all your friends know you're an agent, your family, anybody you've worked with, at a previous job, church members, right? All those. But again, that's kind of the basics. I like to take it a step further. What have other agents told me, and what have I seen that has worked for agents, right? So certainly your sphere, you're gonna make sure you're connected with them on social. But here's one I liked. I was the listing agent, and nice lady is the buyer's agent. I'm like, hey, how'd you get your buyer? I was always curious, like, what's working for you? She tells me, like, religiously, she hands out 3 business cards a day, right? Yeah, I mean, hey Liz, it's always, I mean, you can do it, but I mean, and again, I'm not sure why any Dalton Wade listing agent would ever say no, but you do want to give them the courtesy of, asking and letting them know, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Is this okay? The paradigm kind of does that through the sharing automatically, but I would definitely ask. Just give them a heads up. Hey, I'm going to be doing this, right? And go from there. I don't think anybody would object. But she handed out the 3 business cards. Over the course of the year, let's say there's 365 days. She's handing out 1,000 cards. She got 1% conversion. She got 10 clients from doing that, right? She's just out and about, yucking it up, talking to people. It's all about talking. My mother, she blessed me with kind of the gift. I can go up to pretty much anybody and start a conversation with them. For me, my go-to line is, oh, you might say, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Oh, and then what do you do? What do you do? I ask them like what their profession is, and then are you going to tell me like I'm a dentist, I'm a doctor, I'm a school teacher, I'm a fireman, whatever it happens to be. Then not everybody, but the vast majority will then ask you what you do. What you do. Hey, I'm a real estate agent. You can flip them your card. Hey, if you know of anybody or if you ever need any help, I'd love to network with you. Maybe you can give me your card, right? It's kind of a warm lead, right? But you're continually working it. You're out there self-promoting. Real estate megapin. What is he talking about here? I love this. I love this. Have an agent. I don't know, how many other agents do this now, but when I met her, and this was before, before Zoom, so a bit ago, before the pandemic, she has the realtor pin. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, the name of the brokerage. Hold on, Maria, I will get back to you in 1 second. Just finish this concept. So her pin is humongous, humongous. It's 3 or 4 times bigger than any realtor pin you've ever seen. And she has a tagline that says problem solver. That pin has generated her so much business. People come up to her and say, what problem are you solving? And then it breaks the ice. It starts the conversation. I have another agent, true story, broken gas cap on his truck. 4 or 5 deals from that. People come up, he can chat, this guy, he's a talker, right? He's bilingual. People come up to him and say, he doesn't tell me like how many conversations he's had that went nowhere. That thought he was crazy, but he got business out of it. Things like that. It's all about speaking to people, letting them know what you do and if you can help them. If you can help them. All right, so private question, Phil, pros and cons of removing 100 from MLS for a few weeks, then really release it to refresh it. Okay, here's the thing. Couple of things. Typically now, every MLS can be different, but generally speaking, it goes like this. You have to wait 30 days, right? You can't like take it off, cancel it, and then put it back on, in a few weeks. They're going to say, hey, they're going to fine you for that. They're going to fine you. They're going to say you're manipulating that listing. So you got to wait a minimum of 31 days. There's 2 numbers. So there's the days on market number, right? And then there's the cumulative days on market. So 31 days, the days on market goes to 0, but the cumulative days keeps on counting. Got to wait 61 days for everything to reset. Now, the con is, oh, during that 30 or 60 days you were off market, the buyer was there then, but your property wasn't listed. Typically, something that's sitting there for 150 days is not priced right. It's not priced right. I often tell people, hey, let's say it's a $400,000 listing. If you listed it for 200,000, you'd have so many people there and it would get bid up to what the market thinks it's worth. Yeah, it's a badge pin, the realtor pin, they wear proudly. Yeah, I mean, we're still getting out there, I mean, and again, maybe redo your pin, Tarina, get a big pin, triple that size, put a tagline, I'm your girl, or whatever, you know what I mean? Something like that, that just people have to kind of approach you because they've never seen anything like that. So again, think about it. So your sphere is again your friends, family, business associates, but it's more than that. Yeah, they added it at the bottom of their pin. Yeah, there's pins in, in the Dalton Wade, store, the Markville store. Absolutely. But again, we don't have the big pins. I'm just saying that would be something you'd have to have created. Yeah, there you go. Rachel's got shirts, right? So again, thank you, Rachel. Right. I mean, Phil does not know it all, right? He does not have every solution, every answer. And Rachel, what you just mentioned is a good one, right? I saw this guy at the, I live in Tampa Bay and I went to the Bolts, our local hockey team, and I saw a guy, he had a Bolt jersey on, and on the back, where the player's name is, his said like exceptional realtor, right? I mean, pretty awesome. He must have had it custom made. Yeah, car magnets, you're not really gonna, I just don't think it's enough. I mean, again, you may get something out of it, keep up with it, but I mean, it's not like kind of my go-to thing. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You want to wear that pin. You want to let them know who you are, right? And then you want to start that conversation. Talk to people. Critical. All right. So we covered listings, internet leads, open houses, social media, and your sphere, right? The five things. So again, you want to do them all. As I said before, I see agents sometimes they just do one thing, right? Their approach is narrow, and then all of a sudden something happens with that channel, and their business suffers. All right, your plan of attack. So again, I've mentioned this a couple times, 1 hour a day on each listings, internet, your internet leads and social media. And then you want to like, how am I doing? How am I doing? I did this webinar probably a few years ago now, and I had someone say, about, calling on listings. He said, oh, I've been doing it for 4 months and I haven't got one listing appointment. Well, you got to switch it up. You got to change what you're saying, right? Obviously, what you're saying isn't working. So stop what you're doing and do something different. You got to be self-evaluating all the time, meaning, hey, I tried this and it's not working. I'm not going to keep going with that. Oh, I'm doing this and it worked. It's working. I'm getting some traction. Hey, maybe I should do more of that, right? You gotta, you heard me say, again, I kept statistics. I kept the data. 1 out of 25 visitors to my open houses, I got one as a client. 1 out of 4 people that came through my listing without a buyer's agent, I got as a client. All pre-planned, thought out. Again, when I first started, I didn't know any of this, right? But through time, I'm like, oh, I remember asking like one person, like why they call the listing agent. And I ended up getting him as a client on the buyer side, right? So then after that, I'm like, hey, after every showing, I'm not letting them leave without pitching myself. So you want to check in, right? And see how you're doing. And then YouTube, we talked about having a YouTube channel, but YouTube is awesome for so many things. And again, Phil's, we had the thing about the t-shirt or the shirt, right? Everything we've talked about tonight, door knocking, real estate agent. Type that into Google to YouTube, and you're going to get 50 videos with agents telling you what they do, how good at it, how successful they've been with it. Right? There's a lot of learning, and you can learn, and you can copy, and you can knock them off. They may not even be in your market. Who cares? They put it out there, right? Which is a good thing. Everything, you know, internet leads, real estate agents. That's where I saw, that 10 days of pain where the guy beat on the people for 10 days. I would never do that. So that's not something I'm going to key in on, right? But I kind of found it 10 days of pain. It's got that video, right? I mean, I remember, doing one on open houses. This guy, he puts a table right out in front of that door. Nobody gets in that house without signing in. Would I do that? No, it's too aggressive. So you gotta find out, what works for you. But there's so much good information out there to help you become better at prospecting. All right, so we talked a little bit about the CRM. So Dalton Wade offers, Bold Trail free of charge to all its agents. It's a great piece of software. Let me give you the statistics, and they are sad. Nationwide, only 20%, and most agents have a CRM. Only 20% of agents nationwide use a CRM. At Dalton Wade, it's about 35%. So we have a little bit higher adoption. What about the other 65%? What are they doing? They're off on the wrong track. They're off on the wrong track. I forget who it was, but she said she converted somebody after 3 years. Yeah, we this will be up on the website. It's being recorded. So this will be out there, on the training page, probably by this time tomorrow. So absolutely. So again, it's all about reminding them, hey, I'm here. So many people, right, that we meet and that we come in contact with, or we generated a lead, they're not ready now. They're not ready now. And that's not to say that that's not going to be a productive lead in the future. It certainly can be. Certainly can be. But if you don't follow up with them continually over time in a systematic way, they're lost. You're never going to get them. Because what happens is people go from this. They go from I'm just kind of looking to all of a sudden I'm ready to buy. Whatever that timing is, however long that takes for them to be ready. Right? We do meet people sometimes they're ready now. Great, that's the best. But there's a whole bunch, probably over 50% of the leads fall into I'm not ready now category. And if you're not continually reminding them, hey, I'm here, and you're not providing them with some valuable information, you're out. They don't remember you. They'll remember you if you continue to, drip on them, touch them, try to help them, provide valuable information to them. Yeah, there you go. Dawn, I mean, that happens, but you gotta be there, right? And you never know who that person is, right? That's going to be the one that converts. So you got to treat them all the same, right? And then again, we do, so there's, lead capture, there's tagging, there's automated drip campaigns, there's an integrated dialer and texting, right? You can send out property searches for your clients, right? All those things showing your value, keeping you in front of your client. So take that Bold Trail training with Mary, or we have it on demand, so you can check it out there. Very important. Very important. It will help you. Again, think of it like this, 20 deals in a year, 20 deals. Let's say they're 7,500 on average each. It's 150,000. That's decent. That's a good living, right? Where are they coming from? Where are you going to get those 20 deals from? Oh, I'm going to get 3 from people I meet at open houses. I'm going to get 5 from, spending that 1 hour a day calling people, right, for listings. I'm going to get another, 7 from social, right? You're going to work backwards. How am I going to get the business? Where's it coming from? And then as you do this longer, remember what I said, being a real estate agent is a marathon, right? Not a sprint. It's a marathon. Eventually what happens is then of those 20 deals or 24 deals, right? Then you're getting referrals, right? You don't have to prospect quite as hard. All your business isn't coming from prospecting. Some of it starts to come from, referrals, past clients, people use you again. All right. So in summary, right, top agents are always prospecting for business. Say that again. Top agents are always prospecting for business. Got to spend time. You got to put the effort in 1 hour a day. You're going to prospect for listings. 1 hour a day, you're going to follow up on your internet leads. 1 hour a day, you're on social media promoting your business. Right. And again, I have it in here. A second time, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is not easy. But if you put the time in and you're focused and you kind of spend your time wisely, you will succeed. You will succeed. I mean, again, there's many, many, many successful real estate agents out there. They're no smarter than you. If you're a newer agent or a new agent, they started just like you at some point and they figured out how to get it done. That's what you want to become. All right, let me throw it out to questions and answers. I know we've had a few, that I've answered as we've kind of gone along. Appreciate everybody being here, spending some time. Shows great initiative. Thank you, Don. All right, guys. Hey, Kim, thank you so much. Appreciate everybody being here. Hang in there for another couple minutes, see if anybody has any questions. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Have a great evening. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your night. Good night.